I'm terribly sorry for the clickbait title, guys. I was using Gorilla Mode Sigma for 5 weeks in duration, 4 capsules per day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, which increased my total testosterone concentrations from a measly subclinical 227 nanograms per deciliter to a whopping 422 nanograms per deciliter. So that's an increase of about 190 nanograms, almost double. But you know, it also doubled in size. Vigorous Steve here. I'm going to do my absolute best interpreting my latest blood work results from last Sunday while suffering from the infamous Flurona. It's day number 4 now. I'm taking every medication under the sun that I can get my hands on that is known to speed up the recovery process. I'll link a clinical trial down below, which I'm following a similar protocol. And besides that, I'm taking the good old zinc, vitamin D3, quercetin, N-acetylcysteine, melatonin, and a pretty high dose of fish oil, which I was already taking to make sure that my blood stays nice and thin. So far, the physical side effects have been quite tolerable, but the brain fog is quite substantial. Hopefully it goes away fast, and otherwise I might have to do another course of cerebral Icing just to heal my brain from this bout with Flurona. Before we get into the blood work review, please like the video, leave a comment for the algorithm, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell button so you can get notified whenever a new video drops. Let's just go straight into the hormone panel. I'm sure you guys are all excited to see what happened with the Gorilla Mode Sigma experiment. A little backstory: I came off cycle because I wanted to do ACG monotherapy. I continued with my ACG monotherapy to a point I realized that the ACG turned out to be fake. After a bit of a frantic searching spree and some help from the Vigorous crew that is living here in Thailand, I was able to source LG Chemicals IVFC. So I only got 2 vials, so I ran 10,000 IUs in total, using 500 IUs from the first vial, and then the second vial I used 1,000 IUs per day. My beta ACG levels ended up with a 1000 IU shot about an hour before drawing blood at only 15.9 milli IUs per milliliter, whereas previously I saw my beta ACG concentrations way higher on a lower dose of MSD Pregnil. So I'm not exactly sure if there's a supply chain issue of ACG shipments coming into Thailand and denaturing along the way. All of the ACG underground labs that I've tested with pregnancy tests came back negative. I know that's not a very reliable method to check your ACG, but hey, at least the LG Chemical ACG tested positive on a pregnancy test, and it was also detectable on a beta ACG blood test, which wasn't the case for the MSD Pregnil, which I was running previously, and wasn't the case for all of the ACG underground labs that I've tried previously. Still, I only had 2 vials of LG Chemicals ACG to use. My total testosterone increased from 120, 130 nanograms per deciliter to 230 nanograms per deciliter. But to be fair, I shouldn't really expect too much of a result because megadosing ACG for 2 weeks in duration will only do so much when you've been shut down for weeks to months. Again, I don't know how long my MSD Pregnil turned out to be bunk and not potentiates its effects like it's supposed to. So I probably had testicular shutdown for weeks, if not months in duration. Still, I was able to raise my total testosterone concentrations to 227 nanograms per deciliter. I felt a little bit better than I did before. My training intensity improved slightly. My libido improved slightly. But still, when I saw these blood work results, I was pretty much ready to hop back on TRT. Now, many of you guys wanted to see me trial Gorilla Mode Sigma instead. And, well, for the sake of the community, I wouldn't mind running an experiment like this. So I continued with another 5 weeks of running Gorilla Mode Sigma just by itself. Compounding factors are the following. I was using 3000 milligrams HMB Betator from MuscleTech, and I was also using the Gorilla Mind cortisol blocker, 2 capsules per day before bed. That contains 500 milligrams Emodin as well as 250 milligrams ashwagandha root extract. So on top of the 4 capsules Gorilla Mode Sigma, that's 550 milligrams ashwagandha root extract that I would get over the day. So that plays a contributing role into how my blood work results are going to look before and after. I was using injectable glutathione once per week with injectable vitamin C and a B100 complex. I'm doing 250 milligrams NAD plus once per month after doing a loading phase every week for about 5 or 6 weeks in duration. Now I do NAD plus monthly. So those might be contributing to how I'm feeling and how my blood work results might have changed. But still, I think most of the results that I've got on my before and after hormone panel is solely coming from the Gorilla Mode Sigma. I thought about doing 8 capsules per day, but I believe that's getting into toxicity levels. Again, Fadogia Agrestis has been associated with testicular toxicity in animal models, so that is something of note. And after discussing with Derek on how he wanted me to follow this protocol, we decided that it would be best just to stick to the recommended dosing protocol of 4 capsules Gorilla Mode Sigma per day. Now, before you ask, no, I did not ice my testicles during this entire protocol. I wanted to see how much of an effect I would get from the Gorilla Mode Sigma by itself. I already know that icing the testicles works. I've tried it myself, and many of you guys have already tried it. The last time I've tried it, I was able to increase my serum testosterone concentrations as high as 630 nanograms per deciliter, averaging around 600 nanograms per deciliter with consecutive measurements. I didn't want to test it this time because I want to give Gorilla Mode Sigma a fair chance by itself. Now, if I were to add the icing the testicles, I'm pretty sure I can get even higher than 600 nanograms per deciliter because, again, the last time I did the icing the testicles protocol, I didn't have Gorilla Mode Sigma in the picture. Let's move over to the blood work results. My beta-ACG levels are undetectable because I didn't use ACG this time. Cortisol, 10.8 micrograms per deciliter. Again, that's very comparable to where I usually have it when I run ashwagandha root extracts or Emodin at these high dosages of 500 milligrams per day. Estradiol increased slightly. Previously, before Gorilla Mode Sigma, it was 28.9 picograms per milliliter, and now it's 30.5 picograms per milliliter. So that's a slight increase, which of course is to be expected when your testosterone levels go up. But honestly, I would have expected it to come up more because during this entire period, I was in a pretty hefty caloric surplus. Again, I didn't want to have the burden of following a diet while I was androgen deficient. So I've steadily been increasing my calories. I think up until last week, I was eating about 3,500 or maybe 4,000 calories per day, all healthy, clean food. But that also means I gained a little bit of body fat. So maybe at this point in time, I'm a flabby 15%, if not 17%, which I'll have to get rid of when this Flurona is over and I get my ass back into the gym. But I would have expected more aromatization in this ever-increasing body fat that is unfortunately accumulating on my body. So 30 before, 30 after, pretty comparable. You see that my FSH came up to 2.2 milli-IUs per milliliter from 0.1 milli-IUs per milliliter, and LH came up to 1.97 milli-IUs per milliliter, whereas previously it was 0.05 milli-IUs per milliliter. Now keep in mind that ACG does have a negative feedback on FSH and LH secretion. Still, before I introduced the LG Chemicals IVFC, which was legitimate, my FSH and LH levels were even lower. 5 weeks on Gorilla Mode Sigma, FSH and LH levels increased to about 2 milli-IUs per milliliter. Progesterone came up slightly from 0.1 to 0.13 nanograms per milliliter. Prolactin stayed pretty much the same, give or take 6.8, 6.95 nanograms per milliliter. Again, testosterone came up from 227 to 222 nanograms per deciliter, so that's almost a doubling, but certainly a noticeable difference. I did get stronger while using Gorilla Mode Sigma. That's also because Aaron came to Thailand and he's been pushing me to train a little bit harder, whereas before I was not really training anywhere close to failure. And then Aaron comes into town and he's like, do another rep, Steve. So the meathead in me is grinding my gears again up until last week, where I started getting some Flurona symptoms. So I felt that I was putting this testosterone to work, even though, well, for my bodybuilding aspirations, it's not enough. So when this stuff is over, I will be hopping back on a moderate cycle, bordering on DRT plus. I'm still quite happy with the results. And I will say that I could notice the effects after about a week or so. Aaron noticed the same thing when he mentioned that I was getting a little bit rounder and fuller. Again, the starting point is kind of pathetic, right? 230 nanograms per deciliter, that's subclinical. So you have the lowest possible starting point to improve upon. And anything beyond that is certainly a major improvement already. Right? So within a week or so, I started noticing the effects. in the gym, right? My strength went up a little bit. My motivation increased. And again, having Hiern there to push me through workouts certainly helped. And before you ask, yes, I did notice a substantial increase in testicular volume. And you guys all know that I love my measurement metrics. Before adding the algae chemicals ACG in, I was only able to displace 55 milliliters of water. Again, that's teabagging my testicles into a measuring cup filled to the brim with lukewarm water, dipping it in comfortably, and then measuring how much water is displaced. That's how I measured the volume of my testicles before adding in the ACG. After 2 weeks on ACG, pretty high dosages ranging from 500 IUs to 1000 IU per day, I was able to increase my testicular volume to 62 milliliters. So that's over 10% increase. Then after 5 weeks on Gorilla Mode Sigma, my testicle size increased to 75 milliliters. That's 75 milliliters of water displacement using 5 different measurement points throughout the day. And I've tested this a multitude of times over several different days. One day I even got 78 milliliters of water displacement. Again, I wasn't very sexually active for a couple of days leading into that. Take from that what you will. Maybe that increases testicular size even further. And this is where this weird practice of semen retention is coming from. Certainly not by choice, but hey, sometimes you're just a little bit too busy to get the job done. So let's say on average, my testicular volume increased to 75 milliliters, which is a 21% increase from baseline when I was using ACG. Again, I'm not saying that Gorilla Mode Sigma is more potent in increasing testicular volume compared to ACG because I was using Gorilla Mode Sigma for twice, if not 2.5 times longer. And I did have testicular shutdown for weeks, if not months. So again, take from this what you will. And now that I think about it, when I did my Icing the Testicles protocol, when I came off cycle last year, and I measured the amount of water I was able to displace with my testicles after icing my testicles for a month or 6 weeks in duration, I think I ended up at 70 or 72 milliliters, but I'm not exactly sure. So I'll dive into my library and overlay the final results from back then right now. Before icing the testicles, I was able to displace about 60 milliliters of water. 7 weeks after icing the testicles, I was able to displace 68 milliliters of water on average. So that's almost 10% increase. Anyway, enough about my testicles. Let's make a long story short. I ended up around 75 milliliters of water displacement with this particular and peculiar method to measure testicular volume. Again, it's not a medically approved measuring method, but very easy to do at home. Total testosterone 422 nanograms per deciliter. My DHEA sulfate increased from 129 to 165 micrograms per deciliter, so I'm happy to see that. I'm still going to supplement DHEA whenever I start my TRT Plus protocol. Free testosterone increased from 3.61 nanograms per deciliter to 5.44 nanograms per deciliter. A slight noticeable change, but I mostly noticed that my total testosterone levels doubled. Bioavailable testosterone increased from 86.4 nanograms per deciliter to 133.3 nanograms per deciliter. And SHBG, the sex hormone binding globulin, increased from 44.1 nanomoles per liter to 63.3 nanomoles per liter. So besides the SHBG, which is over the reference range for men below 50 years old, everything else is in range. So all in all, I would say that this Gorilla Mind Sigma experiment was a success. I would have liked to see my total testosterone levels come up to comparable levels where I had them last year, around 600 nanograms per deciliter. But I honestly think I need more time. Again, it took me almost 8 to 9 months last time when I came off cycle and did a post-cycle therapy before I ended up at 630 nanograms per deciliter. This is 422 nanograms per deciliter, 3 months after the last injection, or 3.5 months after the last injection. That's pretty goddamn fast, to be honest. That's really, really fast. So I'm pretty happy and pleased to see these kinds of results. Again, I don't think that Gorilla Mind Sigma is a suitable replacement for a post-cycle therapy. But in this case, it seemed that it recovered my total testosterone levels just fine. And I think if I incorporate icing the testicles 3 times per day for 20 minutes, using a cold pack wrapped in a towel. Again, guys, no direct contact with the cold pack or ice pack. You don't want frostbite on your privates. You wrap it in a towel, place it strategically underneath your testicles, let it sit there for 20 minutes, and then remove it. It's the same idea as hot cold therapy on a sore knee to reduce the inflammation and bring new nutrients to the area. You cool your nuts down, reducing inflammation, and as your testicles heat up, it floods in all the nutrients. Might as well do this after meals when you're in your most nutritious state. 3 times per day, Gorilla Mode Sigma, 2 capsules in the morning, 2 capsules in the evening, with a week of rest like Derek recommended in his 2-hour Gorilla Mode Sigma comprehensive overview video. Take a week off, cycle off an over-the-counter test booster, and then continue it with 4 weeks on, dosing it at 2 capsules up to 4 capsules per day. And I think I would be able to get my serum testosterone levels at least to 600 nanograms per deciliter like I got them last year, but I would like to see them higher than that. I'm not going to run that experiment though. That's up to you guys. For anybody that's interested in doing such an experiment, please document it. Do your blood work before, during, and after. Feel free to combine that with Gorilla Mind's cortisol blocker, which has some additional ashwagandha root extract and reduces cortisol levels, reducing a negative feedback that cortisol might have on further testosterone production and secretion. Get the data, run the experiment for yourself, inform the community of your findings. Maybe you're able to get super physiological if you haven't dabbled with performance-enhancing drugs for a decade and your pituitary gland and your testicles appear to be a little bit lazy and unresponsive, unless you're really hammering the ACG and the HMG. So for me, I'm just going to start TRT as soon as this Flurona is over. How long it's going to last, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm already starting to feel better, at least good enough to record this video. Let me know how it was. Hopefully it wasn't too bad, and otherwise I'll have to figure it out in the editing process. I'll review the rest of the blood work after this one. This already took me 2 hours to record, so stay tuned, be patient with me, guys. I'm doing my best to get over this as soon as possible. Hopefully I can release the rest of the blood work later today. It's kind of uneventful, not much to talk about. Everything falls within normal parameters. Again, I've been off cycle for 3 months now, so it should be. So that will be a quick and easy video dropping after this one, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. And after that, I will pick back up where I left off, continuing with the Vigorous Q&A. I got over 100 messages. Plenty of cool questions to choose from and answer in a single video format, so stay tuned for that. For now, we're out of time. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find everything that I'm associated with down below in the description section. It's on the way to the comment section. I know a lot of you guys are posting comments left and right, but in between the video and the comment section, there's actually a very informative section of YouTube where you can find my website, my Instagram, my TikTok, my other YouTube channel, my Spotify, my Podbean, sponsors, affiliates, discount codes, timestamps, and sometimes studies or links to supplements, which I discussed in this video directly, so you don't have to frantically search the internet trying to figure out what I was talking about, right? Diindolmethane, how do you spell that? If I talk about diindolmethane or any of the other over-the-counter supplements, you bet your left testicle there's a discount code for it, because I do like to make a little bit of a commission. Yeah, you guys understand that, right? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, before I forget, a front double bicep for the Vigorous crew, struck down by the Flurona, but still bulging somewhat. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next blood work video.